Welcome back, everyone, to the AOR Pro Mazda Championship. It's round 9, and we're at Brands Hatch for the penultimate round of the first season. My name is Justin, and joining me once again is Crekkan.
Yeah, hello again, and welcome back. Hopefully we have another good race, and yeah.
Yep, this is a classic British circuit. Going to be a home race for a lot of the racers. Very high-speed corners. It's going to be a lot of fun. Really looking forward to this one personally. Last time out, Kerry Nolden took pole position and the race win with Patrick White and Phil Reed in second and third, giving Kerry the lead of the championship with Patrick only 5 points behind and Jordan Housen now 24 points behind Kerry. In the team's championship, AOR has an opportunity to seal the deal here in Brands Hatch if they perform well enough and get a bit of luck as well. Let's kick things off with a side-by-side qualifying comparison.
The penultimate round of the season at Brands Hatch, on board with Colin Cunniff and Phil Reed for this qualifying comparison. Heading into Paddock Bend, brake lightly, gliding your car through the corner and relying on the camber to force the car away from the gravel, using the exit curbing to its fullest. Heading into the slowest corner of the track, Druids Bend, brake heavily and keep a tight line close to the curb, using all the track as you descend down to Graham Hill Bend, taking a wide entry and a wide exit, careful to avoid the grass. Surtees is another corner in which you glide through, avoiding the highly banked exit curbing as you head into the straight through Pilgrim's Drop. Hawthorne's Bend is taken in 5th gear and is nearly flat out if you stick close to the curbing, being gentle with your steering inputs. Westfield Bend is nearly blind and you use all of the exit curbing but avoiding the gravel as you head uphill into the blind sheen curve, cutting as much of the curb as legally possible before heading into the low rev 4th gear Stirling's Bend. Heading into an exiting clock curve is a simple task, with a drag to the finish, and that is a 1/10 difference between 4th and 9th, to Justin for the full qualifying results.
So it is Kerry Nolden on pole position with a 1:18.390, 10th and a half faster than Michael Mittner, who starts from the front row for the first time this season. Gino Vandenbroek qualified in impressive 3rd position, just a 10th slower than Michael Mittner, while Colin Cunniff shares the 2nd row alongside him in 4th. Martinson starts from 5th, while 2nd place championship contender Patrick White starting from 6th position, 5 positions down from Kerry Nolden. New boy Tom Van Dorn starting from 7th position, just ahead of former championship leader Jordan Housen, while Phil Reed and Alexander Trowbridge rounding out the top 10, 6th and 8th, 8/10ths separating them from Kerry Nolden. Quite a gap between those two drivers. Gregor Reineck Jr. starts from 11th place, while Christoph Leister managed to qualify in 12th. Another new guy, Gonzalo Camara, qualifies in unlucky 13th, followed by Robert Plumley, the leading Peter Newman media car, followed by 15th, which is Peter Newman himself. Neil Lukens qualified 16th, just ahead of Evan Imre, while the 3rd Peter Newman media car of Vittorio Saltalamacchia qualified in 18th. Meanwhile, Alexander Van Rompuy and Steve Kagerer round out the top 20, and Nigel Spears received a penalty from the last race at Mosport, meaning he did not take part in qualifying and starts from 21st and last position on the grid today. It's race time from Brands Hatch, and Kerry Nolden is starting from pole position, his 9th consecutive race from the front row. Michael Mittner is starting from 2nd place. Gino Vandenbroek starts an impressive 3rd, while championship contender Patrick White way down in 6th place and starting behind Kerry's teammate Martinson. It's going to be an interesting start here as we are waiting for the lights to come on. Kerry is on the grid, one of the last ones. No doubt making some last-minute adjustments to his setup or something like that as we're waiting for the lights now. Engines revving, lights are on red. We're waiting for the green lights for the start of this penultimate race, and they're away. And Kerry Nolden is away very nicely. Jordan Houston in the background there, trying to shoot up the middle of a couple of people, it looks like, and it looks like he might actually be successful as he's gone up the inside of Patrick White. Oh, and there's been some contact between Cunniff and Martinson, and some more contact actually between Phil Reed. Alexander Trowbridge is involved. That's Robert Plumley, that's Jordan Housen, and wow, and Nigel Spears nearly coming to a complete stop there with Martinson right behind him, and Vandenbroek has actually overtaken Mittner for second place here as we are about coming towards the halfway point of this first lap. Kerry Nolden still in first position. Cunniff, interestingly enough, who was off the circuit there, still hanging on in fourth position, but man, that is a big gap behind Cunniff, and we're not even one lap into this race so far, Crekkan.
Yeah, that was a massive incident. I mean, it looked like it was Martinson who lost traction at the start, and then that just created a chain reaction. I'm not too sure how it happened, and I hope we get a replay later. But with one of the ACR cars out, it's kind of crucial now for Gino Vandenbroek to try and stay in the top four at least, because of course Abercrombie Racing are fighting Peter Newman Media for fourth position. ACR are trying to salvage the season, which has been plagued with bad luck. As we're looking further down the order, and that is Neil Lukens there, who is stuck behind all those drivers. And again, just looking at the drivers, it's Nolden followed by Vandenbroek, Mittner, and then Colin Cunniff, who's just there behind. And of course, you can see the Peter Newman Media cars. I think Peter Newman himself was caught up in that incident. Robert Plumley looked like he clipped someone as Lycey is trying to defend from Evan Imre. As Neil Lukens, he's looking to make an overtake. Oh, that's a very close. He's onto the grass. Evan Imre, he's trying to go around the outside, but he goes on the grass as well. Another little tangle there. Luckily, that didn't end up in another incident. As this order is all jumbled up here, going into lap 2 as we look at this replay.
Yeah, and actually, go ahead and talk us through this. We can see the great start from Housen, but it's going to be interesting to see from this angle how exactly what happened with this crash.
Yeah, true. I mean, that's up a start. It looked like everything got fine, and look, just Martinson nearly collided into Cunniff, and doing so, he lost traction trying to get away, and you can just hear the crashes in the background. Just looking at these leaders, and we're getting another perspective here from another chopper, and that's just a massive wreck. Just all those cars getting bodged into each other. I mean, everyone's having to slow down, avoid cars. I mean, just a mayhem as Nigel Spears actually coming to a stop. I think, I don't know who that was. I think it looks like Lukens, who had to come to a stop himself, avoiding Spears. And we're on board with Housen, and so he's trying to overtake one of the common racing drivers. I mean, it was White, and he just crashes into Van Dorn, who seemed to just stop, and you can just see from his perspective all the cars colliding into each other.
Yeah, and Trowbridge really had nowhere to go, and actually, I think, this is on board with Trowbridge, speak of the devil, and it looks like, he was in the process of overtaking Patrick White, and here comes Phil Reed, and just boom, that is a big hit for sure, and that's going to be some pretty significant damage. And we can actually see which of that is Peter Newman, as you said, who had that crash into the barrier there. So Peter Newman definitely suffered. You can see the damage on Trowbridge's car there as he's trying to pull away. Truly fantastic stuff here, and this is from Peter Newman's view there. Gets caught up with the new guy Gonzalo Camara, and unfortunately in the barrier he reversed back. I noticed that actually. He reversed back onto the track and nearly took out somebody else as well. Certainly got to be careful with that stuff, and you can see the flipping from Tom Van Dorn there, and then Phil Reed just going straight into Alexander Trowbridge, and that's pretty much the end of their races. Wow, great shots here as we see the cars coming through the dust and the smoke of that incident. Truly, truly amazing. I don't know if it's as bad as Spa. We do have a smaller grid versus Spa, though. So I'm not sure if percentage-wise, maybe this is actually the worst incident. But interestingly enough, I don't think Martinson made any contact with anybody, as we could actually see him running in the background there. I don't think Martinson got any damage as a result of that. So he is at least able to continue his race. I would say that's probably a racing incident. I don't think anybody's going to get any sort of penalties for that. But here we are on lap 4 now, and Nolden really extending that gap, stretching his legs, and Vandenbroek. commentator cursed him as he goes off the circuit there for a little bit, and again going pretty deep into the corner there and getting a little bit in the dirt. And yeah, at the moment Vandenbroek doing his best to try and keep up with him, but certainly it's not going to be easy. But Nolden certainly making things a little bit more difficult for himself by going off the circuit at a couple of corners there. As we're going to go back, and yeah, you can see the damage actually on Peter Newman, but he is continuing. So he's got some pretty heavy front wing damage, both left and right side. He's gone off the circuit.
I think he's just managed to keep it from the barrier, but yeah, I mean, Peter Newman, he's having to drive around with a very damaged car, and it might be worth mentioning just who got taken out of the race on the instant. Trowbridge, Howson, Reed, Van Dorn, and Camara all out of the race. And that is, well, not good for the Independence Championship. It looks like Jordan Howson has definitely secured that championship with the drop week coming up. And again, I mean, a Martinson who was able to avoid hitting anybody, seemingly almost like, yeah, I mean, what happened, almost like he was the instigator, of course, not on purpose, just him losing traction, getting everybody caught out there. But let's move on now. Let's just get focused on the race, and of course this massively stretched out order as Christoph Leister is stuck behind one of Peter Newman media cars. I think that is Otarius Sotani-Maki is behind, with Robert Plumley just behind him.
Yeah, I think you're right. And yeah, so right now, Leister in the middle of a Peter Newman media sandwich as it stands right now. Yeah, he's got Plumley. Oh no, and he's lost it. And wow, that is not. He's hit the barrier as well, and now he's got the rear wing damage as well, coming out of Sterling's there. And we're on board with Alexander Van Rompuy at the moment, as we're coming to the end of his 5th lap. And I think it's Neil Lukens just up ahead of him, if I'm not mistaken. And
yeah, it definitely looks like. I think I'm not too sure where Martinson is. I think he's further up the field. But
I think so.
yeah, Evan Imre, we're on board with now. He's just. I mean, this is a very, very good opportunity for all the lower field drivers to score some good points, because, of course, we have 5 drivers out, 3 of them one of the quickest in the field. In fact, I mean, Camara and Van Dorn showing some promise. Hopefully they sign on for the next season. Van Dorn with SDC Motorsports, which is run by Andreas Mork. He's currently an independent, as I think that's Neil Lukens overtaking Christoph Leister with that damage. And we're on board with Kager, who's hoping to probably get something out of it as well. He's getting a very good drive. Christoph Leister very slow, but Kager is just having to back out. It's not the best place to overtake. But Leister getting a lot of understeer, and in fact that's Martinson behind the group. So yes, very interesting. This could shape out to be a nice little battle for the what's left of the points scoring positions. As Kager getting very close to Leister.
Yeah, and actually that might come mean he's going to lose a position here to Martinson. Actually, Martinson with the inside line at Clark Curve, and he's going to take that position. And of course, he's got the damaged car of Christoph Leister just ahead of him. Hopefully, he can be a little bit smarter about it. Although Kager, I do think, made the right decision by not trying to overtake him at I think it was Westfield Bend where he was having a look at him, and really decided to sit back, because I mean that car is definitely unstable. Christoph Leister's car. You can really see the instability in the corners, and certainly Kager, I think, making the right decision to stay behind, but unfortunately he carried a little bit too much speed through Sterling's, nearly ran into the back of him, and that lost him the position to Martinson, who is having a look at Leister right now. And actually Kager coming under attack from Alexander Van Rompuy, with Peter Newman not far behind him. So a lot of these damaged cars actually from that first lap incident still out there on track, still I imagine trying to make that sort of 70% distance as Kager goes off the circuit, and Van Rompuy is going to move past, and I think Peter Newman as well is going to move past, and yeah, he's going to come under attack from Imre as well. So certainly not a good couple of corners for Kagerer, who does not have any damage as far as I can tell.
Someone else who's gone off in the foreground. I think that's Van Rompuy having a bit of a moment. Yeah. But I mean, these drivers are battling for 10th overall, and it's again some of these drivers kind of out of their depth because they're facing drivers who were caught up in my incident who were in the top 10 in qualifying, and of course Leicester, he's got the damage and he's going very wide. A lot of understeer as well. Rumpoy, he's looking to make a maneuver into the turn 2, and does he make a stick? Yes, he does. Very good overtake. Peter Newman himself, he's trying to take advantage of that, but oh, he's going to be around the outside into the next corner, but it's not the place to overtake. Oh, Peter Newman got so close to hitting into Christoph Leicester's already damaged rear wing, but this is definitely heating up. I mean, it's slow drivers versus quick drivers, and considering how narrow this track is and the situation these drivers are in, it's going to be very difficult for drivers to get by without causing any further damage or losing more positions, as we saw with Kegra having, dropping down because, trying to make an overtake stick. He had to back out, and of course that just created a nice little chain reaction as Peter Newman once again staying so close to Christoph Leicester. He's desperate to get by. Peter Newman having the lesser damage, so he's probably more confident. He's only got a bit of wing damage. It isn't as bad as having a very damaged rear wing as we're focusing on Kegra, and of course Peter Newman, he's definitely now going for the attack. And I think Christoph Leicester, he's just yielding because it's just not going to be worth it as Kegra looking to overtake on the inside possibly into turn 1.
Yep, and here he comes down towards Paddock Hill Bend. Peter Newman has the position. Will Kegra take the position? It looks like he will, as these tires are all nice and warmed up, so the car is going to be a little bit more predictable for these drivers. But yeah, brave stuff from Peter Newman there, overtaking a damaged car with the damaged car at a high-speed circuit such as Brands Hatch. Really, really brave stuff, but he managed to make it stick, so hats off to him, because certainly no incidents or anything like that. Great job by Peter Newman. Leicester, though, he's hanging in there. I mean, I got to admit, when I saw the incident that he was involved in and the amount of damage that he had, I was expecting him to dive into the pits that lap. I think it was lap 5. And then lo and behold, lap 6, I see him still out on circuit. So he's definitely doing his best, and he's hanging in there, doing a good job. Certainly can't be easy for him as we're reaching the 25% distance mark very shortly here. And he's got Imre all over the back of him. But Imre really doesn't seem to have too much pace over Leicester, and just how damaged that rear wing is truly amazing. Actually, here comes Imre on the run down towards Clark Curve, and not enough room. Let's see if he can carry enough speed through this final corner as we're moving back on board with to the guys at the front. And Gino Vandenbroek still running in second place as it stands right now, coming under attack, though, from Michael Mittner. And Kerry Nolden definitely really extending that gap. You can still see him. He's not too far off in the distance, but I do believe Vandenbroek is probably out of the slipstream, and it's tough to tell from some of these camera angles if they're running wide because it's a little bit low down, but it certainly looked like Vandenbroek taking a lot of curbing there at the exit of the corner. But it also appears that Colin Cunniff has dropped off the back of them. I'm not sure what happened with Cunniff, but he is nowhere to be found, actually.
Yeah, I mean, when he went onto the gravel, I mean, it might have done some floor damage, but there's other drivers behind him. It looks like these 3 drivers are here on merit. I mean, they've got quite a bit of pace. I'm not too sure who that behind. I think it was a Carbon Racing car, actually, who was behind. But, yeah, I mean, Kerry Nolden, he's doing his usual thing and just pulling out the gap. I mean, once he's got the driver behind out of the tow, it's usually very difficult for the driver behind to stay close, just surely because of his pace. And Brock, he's trying his best to defend from Mittner, who is pretty much used to being in the top 10. Vandenbroek only really showing this kind of pace in the last few races, pretty much starting from Road America when he was battling for 5th position against Howson and Marcus Jensen, if I remember correctly. But you can really see, actually, when you're comparing between the midfielders we were focusing on in the earlier parts of the race and these 2 drivers, just how much quicker they are. I mean, you can see it as they're just diving through the corners, really quick pace, using all of the curbing, getting very close to hitting the gravel. But yes, this is definitely new territory for Vandenbroek. And it looks like if he keeps this up, he might at least get 3rd, and that would be an amazing result, not just for him, but for other Chronic Racing. He just nips his rear tyre into the grass, almost a curse there. But on board now with Vandenbroek. Hopefully we get a full lap of this as we go down that amazing first corner. I mean, you just got to hope that the car sticks. I mean, the camera just makes sure that when you're turning in, it just drags the car and keeps onto the tarmac, and you can use the curbing not really as a last resort. It's just there to just help you get as much speed and just stay off the gravel. And you can just see how much of the curbing they are using. I mean, they're just pushing and hoping they can stay ahead of each other.
Yeah, one of the challenges for sure at Brands Hatch is spotting your turn-in point for a lot of these corners can be very difficult, especially Paddock Hill Bend and also Turn 4 Surtees corner as well. Can be very difficult stuff, but as you mentioned, Vandenbroek going very well. He's run a little bit wide. I mean, that was very, very close, but he did keep it on the curbing there, and again, taking lots and lots of curb, really seems to be pretty comfortable. And actually, I did want to mention actually that Jensen is absent from the race today, since you made mention of him just a little bit ago. Jensen is absent. Also, Joshua Anderson, who is running really, really well at the last race at Mosport, also absent today. And of course, as we've already mentioned, Vandenbroek, the only ACR car still remaining in this race, and it looks like he's coming under attack, but no, he brakes very, very late, carries a nice amount of speed. Is he going to have to defend the inside line at Druids? He does not defend the inside line, and he is going to stay ahead, though, of Michael Mittner. And this is really starting to heat up. I was going to mention, actually, that Mittner really seems to be holding back and possibly just waiting for that perfect opportunity, but now he is seeming a little bit more aggressive and really seeming like he's possibly trying to push Vandenbroek into a mistake, possibly.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like Mittner is faster than Vandenbroek for sure, and the longer he's held up, the further he is from Kerry Nolden, and of course, Kerry is looking for another win, another consecutive win. I think that'll be his fourth in a row, if I'm correct. I'm not too sure, I can't really remember. But of course, just getting back to those two rookie drivers who are not here this race. I mean, you could really consider their entry into Season 1 as practice for Season 2. I mean, Joshua Anderson only really appearing in the last race. That would definitely have been practice for Season 1. And Marcus Jensen, he's been showing his potential all season, slowly getting better, getting more consistent, and learning the routine. And it might be worth mentioning as well, getting back into Brands Hatch, that Martinson has actually gone into the pits for an early pit stop. News from the pit board from Team AOR is saying that he started the race with a lower fuel tank. It looks like they incorrectly fueled up the car and left him a qualifying amount of fuel in. Only 35% of the fuel tank fueled, I suppose. Considering the maximum amount of fuel that can go into these fuel tanks is 5.7 gallons. Can't really give you a quick conversion into litres, but this might cause some trouble down the road. I mean, Martinson might have to fuel save going into the end of the race, but of course, maybe if he's behind a driver and he can just pick up a slipstream, as we can see Mittner again very close to Vandenbroek, and actually going wide there. He's desperate to get by and pushing a bit too hard there, but if Martinson just sticks behind somebody or just does a nice little technique of lifting off before braking, he might be able to get to the end with this difficult fuel strategy. As Vandenbroek again off the road there, he seemed to get some oversteers. Mittner's trying to take an overtake on the outside, but he just can't do it.
No, that is a very, very difficult corner to try and overtake at the outside, and clearly Vandenbroek knew that as he defended the inside line after that poor run through Sterling's. Well spotted by you there. But Mittner still nice and close behind him. As you mentioned, yeah, Martinson, it's going to be difficult for him, but yeah, he would have dropped back, obviously, after pitting. So he will have a number of cars to do some fuel saving behind, but of course that is also going to have an impact on his finishing position as well. So certainly not looking great for Martinson at this point, but it's not all over, as Brock taking a lot of curbing there and getting all sorts of out of shape at the exit of the corner, coming down Pilgrim's Drop now. He's going to defend the inside line for Hawthorne's Bend. Will Mittner be able to take it around the outside? No, he cannot. He has carried a little bit more speed, though. He's going to switch to the inside, nope, and he slots back in behind Gino for the next corner for Westfield Bend there. But just going back to Martinson, certainly I think he'll make it to the end, but that is definitely going to have an impact on his performance today.
Yeah, I mean, it's not been the best start. I mean, Team AOR, as we've said, trying to secure the team's championship this race. And it certainly doesn't help, but of course, I mean, Nuclear Racing no longer turning up, no longer participating by the looks of things in this championship. So it's more of an inevitability. If they can't do it this round, they can certainly do it next, where they're just looking to improve on results. I mean, as we've mentioned, the drop week is coming up. Basically, that means your worst result will be nullified, and will be replaced with a better result. So let's say your worst result was 8th position. You're a top runner, you finished 8th. But in Silverstone, you finished 7th. The 8th position will get nullified, and the 7th position will take priority. Might only be an extra point, but it might be worth something in the end. And of course, some of these drivers having retirements, missing races. I nearly said avoiding races, but of course some tracks can be undesirable. Next season's schedule definitely looks interesting. I know some drivers are a bit worried about some of the tracks, especially one of them at Bathurst. Oh
gosh.
Yes, that's going to be a very interesting race to see. Hopefully people do turn up to that race, but getting back on top of season 1, it's Vandenbroek getting a lot into the curve there. He didn't take a very good entry there, but looks like Minna's too far behind. It looks like Vandenbroek was actually pulling out a gap, but pushing too hard. I think this is just a consolidation for Vandenbroek in the end. I mean, he's definitely got third secured if he lets Mittner by, but if he can get second, that'll be even better. It'll be about 3 points more with 25 points. For second, only 22 for third place.
Yep, either result, though, would be the best results of the season so far for Vandenbroek. So looking like a very strong race. Of course, this is home circuit as well. Wow, lovely shots there from the gearbox of Vandenbroek, and moving on to the nose now. And here's another one of those difficult turn-in points at Cersei's corner. Very difficult to find the right line for beginners and whatnot. And like I said, Paddock Hill Bend as well, another one. It's a very tough circuit, it's only 9 corners. It's very high speed, though. I believe the lowest speed point on the circuit is probably the entry for Druids, I gotta imagine. Really, I mean, you're not really going below third gear very often. As you mentioned, though, Vandenbroek pushing very, very hard here. He does seem to be attempting to get Mittner out of his slipstream, but I'm not sure if it's working, because as you mentioned, pushing a little too hard at points. Neither of these guys have finished on the podium so far this season, and it's looking quite good for them with a huge gap to fourth behind. As you mentioned, I think that is a Carbon Racing, no, that is Colin Cuniff, actually.
Yeah,
Colin in fourth position.
Yeah, Colin is still there. He's definitely dropped back, so it does look like these two drivers are here on merit. They definitely got more pace than usual. But again, I mean, they're usually Mittner is usually fighting within the top 10, and Brock's only recently been fighting in the top 10. But this time around, it definitely looks like this is one of their best circuits. I mean, Vandenbroek having a very unlucky start to the season, about 4 retirements in 5 races. The only blip being Road Atlanta, where he finished 10th, but ended up taking out his teammate in the process, which wasn't really a good thing for Aberchronic Racing. But to get on to back on the topic you were talking about before with the track, some of these curbs, they're flat, and others they're raised. So if you go on the flat ones, you can.
That's Leister. That's Leister. Yeah, no doubt because of the damage. And actually, here comes Vandenbroek and Mittner as they're going to be getting ready to lap Leister. And you got to imagine that Leister has got to pit now. We're just about at the halfway point. And he does dive into the pits, but again, already a lap down on Kerry Nolden, now being lapped by second and third place as well. But Leister not having to make an additional stop, which is going to be crucial for his race here today. He doesn't need to make 2 stops. laps. He was able to stretch that damaged car all the way to the end of lap 18, which is pretty impressive, all things considered. But now he's going to be dropping down, of course, with this relatively early pit stop here. As we're actually having a look at, this is Neil Lukens and, that's Kerry Nolden. Holy cow, Kerry Nolden is lapping Robert Plumley here. I'm not sure what position Plumley is in at the moment, but Kerry Nolden already making his way through the field. Obviously, it's a shorter lap versus some of the other races we've seen this season, so lapping cars.
Might be fair to mention that Plumley did pit, but he did a longer pit stop. I mean, you saw at the start, he clipped, I believe, that was the remains of Phil Reed's car, was it Trowbridge? I'm not too sure, but he definitely clipped one of the cars, so he might have got a bit of wheel damage, but supposedly he also took a pit. He also changed his tyres, so that's why he was in for a longer period of the pit stop. But yeah, Robert Plumley a lap down. In 15th position from what we can tell, 15th position with Christoph Leicester last and 16th. Of course, you can now see on the ticker there, Phil Reed, Tom Van Dorn, Jordan Howson, Alexander Trowbridge and Gonzalo Camara all out of the race there. And on a shortened grid of 21 drivers, still a lot of drivers, of course, but it's a shame we're down to 16 drivers. But more opportunity for drivers to score higher points as we approach the end of the season.
Yep, and approaching the halfway point of this race, Vandenbroek really seems to be stretching out that gap to Mittner, actually. Looking like, well, it's still under a second, but certainly visibly a much bigger gap than we've seen at previous points in this race. So possibly Vandenbroek just taking it down a click or two as far as how hard he's pushing, and I think that might actually be working out better for him. Mittner, again, I think that's the same spot, actually, where we saw him go off before. So he really pushing very hard, and actually it does seem to be making an impact here, as he does seem a little bit closer to Vandenbroek. I think Vandenbroek really just trying to get this guy out of his slipstream and just sort of hoping for the best. He hasn't really made any mistakes for the last few laps or so, though, so it's looking pretty good for him. Coming right up to the edge of Clark Curve there as we start yet another lap, lap 21. We're at the halfway point of this race now, and look at this, closer than ever. Michael Mittner all over the back of Vandenbroek. That gap that he pulled out over the last couple of laps, all gone already. And again, he's having a look at the inside of Druids there. Really not close enough to get a side by side. I really think he's playing a bit of a psychological game with Vandenbroek here.
Definitely. I mean, he's Michael Mittner. He's not abiding by Brock's rear wing slogan, "Keep your distance." That's for sure. But Brock's seemingly keeping his composure. He's just trying to get the car to the end, obviously. But if he can hold on to second, that's a bonus. Third definitely seems assured, barring any mistakes or issues in the pit, as it looks like we're coming up onto more lapped traffic. Might be worth mentioning the drivers fighting the top 10. Alexander Van Rompuy, Evan Imre, Steve Kager, all around that top 10 mark. Definitely looking like it's going to be a good point-scoring race for them if they can finish. Of course, got to finish 90% of the race, but they definitely usually only get lapped by about one lap. As Mittner is looking to make an overtake on the outside. Brock must have got a bad exit, but well, it didn't really look as that's Leicester again. He's spinning off all over the place. He's really trying to get that car to the end. I mean, A for effort, but that's Mittner. He's on the inside now. He's looking to overtake into turn one, and he's made it stick. I think Brock had to yield there. There was no way he could hold it on around the outside of such a difficult corner, and now Brock is trying to look for a way past as we're on lap 22 of 40 of this race at Brands Hatch.
Yep, Mittner up into second place now, Brock down into third. Again, though, as we've mentioned, this would be personal best finishes for both of these drivers, even after swapping around. But now Mittner in the second half of this race with that advantage over Gino Vandenbroek, and it's going to be interesting to see what happens here. Actually, Vandenbroek, it's been a few corners already, and he has not lost out so far. In fact, he's all over the back of him, so possibly gaining a little bit of confidence here. He very likely would have been worried that once he got overtaken that Michael Mittner would have just pulled away, but it really doesn't seem that Michael Mittner has too much pace on him, and this battle for second place looks like it's set to continue for the remainder. We've got 18 laps still remaining, 19 laps. Gary Nolden already on, oh no, there we go, he just crossed the line. So actually, that gives us a nice idea of the gap between first and second right now, as these guys are just now crossing the start-finish line to start lap 23. Gary Nolden probably with a 10-second gap or thereabouts, and Gino Vandenbroek taking a very aggressive line, really using all of the track for Paddock Hill Bend there. And no opportunities to overtake as it stands right now. But again, Vandenbroek staying in that slipstream very nicely so far.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I mean, it looks like Mittner does have at least a tenth or two in him over Brock, but since Brock is in a slipstream, he's obviously just got that advantage of being able to stick with him. But Brock really needs to pull something out of the bag if he wants to get a position back, as we're on board, well, focusing on Kerry Nolden. I think that's his teammate Martinson behind him, who's been lapped by his team leader and championship leader, of course. That's Nigel Spears, who got a qualifying ban after the incident in motorsport, and Nigel Spears is yielding, but of course he's got to be aware of Martinson, who's behind him. That might have been a little bit of team tactics maybe, as Brock just getting a little bit onto the grass there. And this battle for second continues as Kerry Nolden starts manoeuvring through traffic. These two drivers will manoeuvre through traffic as well in the coming laps, as I think the pit stop window is definitely opening. I'm not too sure exactly when we're going to start seeing the pit stops, but I think they'll be in the next few laps.
Yep, certainly, yeah, firmly open as we're past the halfway point. So yeah, I'd say in the next handful of laps or so, as you said. But this traffic could possibly play a role here, as the battle for second place catching up to Robert Plumley now, getting ready to lap him. And it could play a heavy hand potentially, specifically for Gino Vandenbroek. With how close these guys are, I really don't see, just use Plumley as an example here, I really don't see Plumley letting Mittner through before a corner and then letting Brock through after the corner. See, he's going to pull to the right, he's going to let both of these cars by. Although actually, to Plumley's credit there, I really don't think he held anybody up there, and in fact, Mittner maybe even got a little bit of a slipstream as a result of it. But
True.
just again,
True, but
it
may be fair to say that, of course, Robert Plumley leaving it to the last second almost, giving Mittner a bit of a tow. Of course, you've got to remember, Peter Newman Media and Avrochronic Racing are fighting for fourth, and any little advantage Peter Newman Media can give to their opponents in containing ACR, they will use, I suspect, as legally as possible, I suppose.
Absolutely, and I mean, that certainly was legal, as actually the gap starting to spread out a bit. This is about as big as the gap got when Brock was leading ahead of Mittner. So let's see what Brock can do as far as catching back up to Mittner. That gap, it has extended for sure as we're coming into Druids. And
but it looks like he lost a bit of traction there. He's really pushing on to try and keep up to Mittner, but I think that's actually done more harm than good, because the more mistakes he makes and the more time he loses, the less of an effect he'll get in the slipstream. And of course, if he loses the slipstream, I think he'll just lose out on Mittner in the end. I mean, Mittner, as I said, I think he's got 2 tenths in him over Brock, and is going to try and pull away if he possibly can. He's going to use any disadvantage that Brock gets and turn it into an advantage for himself.
Now, and yeah, this is the sort of gap where I could envision a back marker letting Mittner through and not realizing that Brock is right behind him. So we may actually see that very scenario that I was mentioning before, where we see a back marker let Mittner through without realizing that he's got third place just behind him, and we might actually see somebody get into the middle of this battle. Hopefully we don't see that, but this could be good for Mittner, as I believe that is Jordan Howson.
No, it's Nigel Spears.
Oh, that was Nigel Spears, the similar yellow. Nigel Spears going into the pits there, and this battle for second continuing. Worth mentioning that Martinson, of course, lapped by his teammate, but also Martinson with that early pit stop, and also possibly in fuel-saving mode as well. So that could be playing a role as well. But again, he has already made his one and only stop, or what is hopefully his only stop of the race, and that's part of the reason that his teammate is already lapping him here at Brands Hatch. But Cunniff as well really does not seem to be closing the gap or anything like that. I'm not sure. I don't think Cunniff has anybody around him to get any sort of draft off of or anything like that. So even though these two guys at the front, Mittner and Gino Vandenbroek, even though they've been trading positions or have traded positions one time, I really don't think that it's causing them to slow down at all. As we're having a look now actually at Kagerer and Van Rompuy. This is, as you mentioned, I think this is a battle for sort of the top 10.
Yeah, definitely the fringe. I think actually Kagerer is in the top 10. We'll just get a little. We'll probably get a confirmation of the ticker in a second as we wait. And no, they're not. Pierre Newman in 10th, but Robert Plumley. I think these guys have actually pitted, to be fair, because they were in that top 10 region. So yes, Kagerer probably pitting. Van Rompuy probably doing the same as, of course, Robert Plumley. Ron Rompuy actually having a bit of difficulty there, exiting the curb, holding up. I think that's Reineck there a bit. But yes, actually on related carbon racing news, as Gregor Reineck makes his pit stop, Patrick White pitted around lap 24, but he actually got a speeding penalty. We're hearing from a pit lane. So that's a speeding penalty. You get a 15-second hold up in the pit lane, and yes, that's definitely not good for him in his championship hopes.
Yep, yeah, that is certainly not going to help at all. But you gotta just soldier on when that sort of stuff happens. Obviously, not intentional from him. Probably missed a braking point at the entrance. Very high speed pit entrance, obviously, as you're accelerating, coming out of Sterling's, and then the pit entrance really right here at Clark Curve coming out of it. Very high speed, as I mentioned, and very easy to make a mistake. And Mittner. It's getting a little bit tougher to tell. Vandenbroek still hanging in there, but only just, as you mentioned, as he falls back, as Mittner actually has run a little bit wide there. He's all in the gravel there, and I wonder if that's going to slow him down at all for Druids, as it looks like Brock has a fantastic opportunity to close down this gap. And what can he do, as we're on lap 28 now. This is the 70% point of the race, which is roundabouts where the pit window usually is, give or take. Obviously, people with different strategies and whatnot. But actually, it looks like Mittner has a little bit of front wing damage as well, as we're going to get a replay here. And is that Patrick White?
Yeah,
I think that is Patrick White.
Yeah,
and
like
he's spun it. Yeah, it's Sheen Curve. He spun it just before Sterling's, and that's his teammate Gregor Reineck Jr. actually going by. And I'm not sure if that was after the pits had already taken place or not, but this is on board with Patrick White coming up the hill. Yet another corner again where it's very difficult to spot the turning point. He just dips the wheel ever so slightly in the grass, sends him right around into a 90-degree spin. He keeps it out of the barrier, rejoins the circuit just behind his teammate, and I wonder if we're going to be seeing some battling between these guys. And yeah, that is after both of them have pit. So that is Gregor Reineck Jr. now ahead of his teammate. But of course, Patrick White is in the championship still. So he needs absolutely every single point that he can get here on account of, I mean, Kerry Nolden has had some DNFs, or at least one DNF. So I mean, if Patrick White can pick up some nice points here, combined with the drop week and possibly a bad result in Silverstone, Patrick White is still in this. So I wonder if we're going to be seeing a little bit of team orders here. Certainly not close enough to get by at the moment, but he's certainly in the slipstream of Reineck Jr. there.
Yeah, definitely. As we are moving on back on board, well, back in focus, I should say, with Van Rompuy now, back onto the other Apex Online Racing drivers, which we don't usually talk about anymore. It's Neil Lukens ahead of his teammate Martinson. Martinson experiencing a bit of lag there. Lukens getting a lot of oversteer. They're in front of a second and third place, so that's going to be interesting to see what happens there. But Lukens usually be a third driver, you could call it, usually fighting outside of the top 10. With Martinson, oof. Yeah, Lukens having a bit of trouble there, as Martinson, he's going to just easily take the place. And Martinson moving up into 8th position now, of Lukens in 9th. But both these drivers are going to take these positions, Neil Lukens again having a bit of trouble. They're going to take it to heart. I mean, finishing in the top 10. I think all three drivers finishing in the top 10 for Team AOR is going to be a fantastic result and will definitely secure the team's championship. As again, Lukens, I don't know what's wrong with his car, but he's having a lot of oversteer moments coming out of his corners. So,
has he pit already?
I'm not too sure. It looks like he might have done, but
yes, he has. Okay.
I mean,
okay, yeah.
yeah, we're getting a little tangled up here, but Lukens again, he's usually fighting outside the top 10. It's not usually in the top 10 himself, but he's just letting. Looks like he's just having a bit of trouble and letting by the two drivers out behind him. As that's Brock, who's actually pitted by the looks of things. Yeah, Brock's pitted, but has actually came out behind Colin Cunniff. It was probably about 10 seconds. And behind him, as that's Kerry Nolden taking a long route into the pit lane. You don't really need to do that. And I mean, he has got a big advantage. Maybe he's just giving the drivers behind him a bit of hope. But as he goes into the pits now for a scheduled stop, 10 laps remaining, actually 9 laps remaining now, as he just crosses the finish line in the pit lane. And that's a bit bizarre. Vanden Broek is behind Colin Cunniff, who gets just a bit off on the grass. And just actually getting word from a pit lane from what happened with Brock. He actually got a speeding penalty entering the pits, so he had to stay behind in his pit box for about 15 seconds. And with Colin Cunniff already pitting, it looks like Vanden Broek is now in 4th. And actually, never mind. Actually, Colin Cunniff himself has got a speeding penalty, but he got it coming out of the pit, so that's him now going into the pit lane to serve his penalty. So looks like things didn't go too badly for Brock, and of course he's going to have a very nice gap behind him and 4th place now, as that's Kerry Nolden stuck behind 2 Peter Newman media cars. That's definitely not a place where he wants to be, as he actually gets under the grass there. I don't know what's going on. I think Peter Newman's actually a lap down to Saud Talimakir, I think, as both drivers let Kerry go by. But I don't know what's going on between the Peter Newman guys. They're just getting in each other's way.
Yep, and also getting in Kerry Nolden's way a little bit there as well. It looked like they weren't really sure exactly what to do there, but everybody away nicely. Yeah, Peter running a little bit wide there through Sterling's, but keeping it pointed in the right direction at least, as Kerry Nolden completes yet another lap. Just 9 laps remaining in this race, and you got to say it's looking pretty good for Kerry. He can't even see second place anymore. The gap between them quite large, and it's looking good for AOR as well. I'm not sure if their current positions are going to be enough to secure the team's championship. Certainly, though, having all 3 cars finishing this race is an achievement, though, again, as we've only got 16 drivers still remaining on track. So getting 3 out of 3 drivers in the top 10, and one of which being the winner as well, certainly is going to be a good thing for AOR in the team's championship. And
yeah, that would be a good thing. And I can't believe my eyes. Christoph Leister is still racing. He's doing a Valkyarvi with this. It might be worth mentioning Valkyarvi can't make this round due to other commitments, but yeah, Christoph Leister not having a good day, but he's sticking with it, just trying desperately to get some points. Of course, he's in the higher end of the standings and wants to stay there, as he is stuck behind Nigel Spears and Alexander Van Rompuy. They're fighting for 13th and 14th. Christoph Leister a lap down, as Evan Imre is in 15th. I think he's just not too far behind this little group of cars. Yeah, that's him in the background there. But yes, again, this order's still mixed up, still a bit bunched up, of course, from that Turn 1 incident. But these drivers are most of the drivers having a good day. Apart from that incident at the start of the race, it doesn't look like we've had any more retirements. You could argue that Christoph Leister should have retired a long time ago. But yeah, I mean, Van Rompuy getting a lot of oversteer on the exits. Nigel Spears is now looking to overtake him on the outside. This is a battle for 13th position. Unlucky for some, not unlucky for Spears, but definitely unlucky for Van Rompuy, as Nigel Spears takes 13th position from Alexander Van Rompuy.
Yeah, very nice move, very opportunistic there as well. A well-spotted move from him. He saw Rompuy struggling through Clark Curve there, He defended the inside line, but it didn't matter as Spears was able to carry enough speed through that final corner onto the Brabham straight and take that position with not very many laps remaining as well. And in fact, pulled out a little bit of a gap as well. Rompuy not too close behind, so Spears doesn't look like he's going to be under any sort of threat in the immediate future anyway, as Rompuy is, he's got that damaged Star Mazda of Christoph Leiser just behind him. Oh no! And he's hit the grass, and he's sliding, and he's hit the barrier as well. That's going to be some significant mechanical damage to the front right-hand side of his car, and it looks like he is going to be getting a tow back to the pits, which could put him in danger of not finishing the 90% race distance. As we're having a look now at the Carbon Racing guys, Gregor Reineck Jr. still in front of Patrick White as it stands right now. I'm not sure what the gap is, though, ahead of Gregor Reineck Jr., so it's very possible that there is nothing to gain by letting him by right now, so he could just be putting that off to later in the race to really show his teammates, show the world that he is just as fast as Patrick White. But again, Patrick White, second place in the championship, only 5 points down on Kerry Nolden. And I mean, unless something horrible happens to Kerry Nolden in the closing stages of this race, it does appear that that gap is going to extend pretty significantly. As we're having a look at Gino Vandenbroek, I believe he is lapping Kagerer. Yes, he is lapping Kagerer. That's not for position. And Kagerer pulling wide at Cersei's corner there and letting Gino Vandenbroek through. With, again, really not much left remaining in this race. Really unfortunate about Colin Cunniff, I got to say, just going back to the multiple speeding incidents that we've had in the pits so far today. Cunniff must have either just took it off the limiter a little bit too early.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like it might actually be about pit entrance. It's definitely confusing a lot of people. It confused our leader, as Reineck actually looks like he's giving way to Patrick White. Yes, that is team orders, definitely. But yeah, it definitely looks like pit entry is confusing a lot of drivers. Kerry Nolden taking a long way, Brock probably not getting the limiter himself on the entry, and Colin Cunniff not putting the limiter on after coming out of the pits, or just accidentally flicking it off when he did pit. But this is a battle for 6th position. Colin Cunniff now in 7th place behind Martinson, who has had a fantastic recovery. And of course, we think he's actually having to save fuel, but it definitely doesn't look like it. I mean, if he did, he wouldn't be trying to hold on to this position as much as he is. And I think that's Neil Lukens behind these two. So that's Martinson in 6th, Neil Lukens in 8th. And of course, we've got Kerry Nolden leading the race with Team AOR in 1st place, of course. And this is going to be, I think at the end of this, Team AOR are definitely going to secure the championship. I can't see, I mean, of course, Nuclear Racing no longer racing. So, I mean, it definitely looks like they're going to pull out a big enough gap, even with a drop week considered. But Colin Cunniff behind Martinson, battling for 6th position of this race.
Yep, and it is very close between them, actually. I was saying that we were a little bit robbed of a battle between Vandenbroek and Cunniff, but we have been gifted with this wonderful battle for 6th position between Martinson and Cunniff. As you mentioned, Lukens not too far behind in 8th position, and a great result for Lukens as well. I'm not sure if we can confirm or not. I think that might be his best result of the season so far, which could play a heavy role in AOR. Oh, his Cunniff goes a little bit wide into the gravel there. But as I was saying, Lukens' 8th place position could be what actually clinches this championship for AOR potentially, but I'm not sure if he's got any positions left to gain. This is Michael Mittner. It looks like he is attempting I think that's Saltalamacchia in front of him. I do believe it is Saltalamacchia. Yeah. It sure is, as he gets out of the way for Michael Mittner. Still running in that 2nd place position. I'm sure Mittner is going to be absolutely thrilled with this result here today after losing that 2nd place starting position. Of course, he started from the front row today. I'm not sure.
I think that's Reineck who's overtaking Patrick White again. That's a bit odd.
Yep, the Carbon Racing boys looking like they're having a little bit of fun at this point, really. I fully expect Reineck to actually give the position back once again, but because, there's a few laps still remaining in the race here. But as it stands right now, it does look like Reineck Jr. is going to be the leading Carbon Racing car towards the end of this race here. and I gotta assume that he's gonna give Patrick White the very same courtesy that he offered him earlier, and hopefully we'll see a little bit of a battle between Martinson and Cunniff towards the end of this race here. Martinson, though, has got to be happy, all things considered, with that first lap incident, and I think he was down in last place after that spin on lap 1. I mean, you know, some of the cars didn't even make it to the pits, obviously, but yeah, he was basically down in last place, and there's Robert Plumley, or excuse me, Peter Newman getting nicely out of the way for Michael Mittner there, and Mittner navigating the traffic quite nicely. But again, Martinson, I think, is going to be very happy with his current 6th place position, even if he does lose out to kind of with 7th place. I think that's quite an amazing drive to come back from last place.
Definitely. I mean, that's probably one of the recoveries of the season, actually. I mean, to have spun out at on lap 1 and probably causing a little chain reaction. I think that's South Talimaki just getting under the grass there. For him to recover all the way from last to you know 6th. Yeah, so in brain freeze as we're on board. Well, this is a replay of Patrick White. That's why. Actually, no, that's not why he dropped behind Gregor Reinach. I think Reinach just attacked him again on track, of course, to get by. But yeah, Patrick White looks like he wants to get by Reinach, but he just pushed a bit too hard as we're looking at Nigel Spears there, who started in last place, of course, with that qualifying ban. He's in 13th position, a good, unlucky for some, of course, but you know, he's just holding off the lap drive of Leicester. Leicester probably just keeping him on his toes as we're looking once again in the battle for 6th position. Nick Martinson and Colin Cunniff fighting it out. Cunniff trying to... Cunniff has had a bit of an unlucky season. He's definitely a quick driver. He's just not had that luck, and of course he would prefer to finish the 6th and 7th, even if it is just an extra point. As Martinson again experiencing a bit of lag. It's been the case. It was the case in most spots as well there, but yeah, definitely.
Yep, and Leicester actually, I think, is a perfect example of just how crazy this race has been, because he's currently running right behind Imre, I think it was. He's running right behind Spears. Excuse me. Yeah, he's running right behind Spears as a lap down, but he's only 2 positions down on Spears. Currently running in 15th place, while Nigel Spears is in 13th place. So these guys only separated by 2 positions on track, yet they're an entire lap apart. As some more issues for Leicester there, who at this point I gotta imagine really just is going to settle down and probably just get the car home, because obviously really no positions to gain here. Penultimate lap of the penultimate race of the season. Colin Cunniff all over the back of Martinson there, and once again Mittner having to get by. This time it's Robert Plumley to lap yet another Peter Newman media car. Actually, we've seen him lap all 3 of them in the past few laps or so, and here's Martinson coming towards the end of the lap, coming under attack from Colin Cunniff. As you mentioned, Cunniff not having the best of luck so far this season, and actually, is that Kerry Nolden? That is Kerry Nolden. He is not that far behind, and he's actually lapped his teammate Neil Lukens as well as he comes across the line to start the final lap of this race. I mean, he's maybe 5 to 10 seconds behind his teammate now. Of course, we saw him lapping Martinson earlier in the race after Martinson had already made his pit stop, but he is actually catching up to this battle between Cunniff and Martinson. Now, I wonder if he's pushing extra hard, possibly in an effort to force Cunniff to yield for him. Which would be a benefit for Martinson, of course.
Yes, and of course I think we're going to get an extra minute of racing at this point, because these 2 drivers are not too far ahead of Kerry Nolden, but I doubt Nolden's going to be able to catch up in time. I mean, it's a big gap, but just going back to before we switched on to these drivers, that was Nigel Spears actually batting Steve Kagerer for position, but that was for 12th. I'm wondering if he actually eventually got by. But Martinson, he's just got 1 more lap to go after this to hold off Colin Cunniff. And of course, we actually have the battle for 4th going on as well between Gregor Reinach and Patrick White, as we're just getting the final look at Kerry Nolden as he comes across the final corner onto the finish line. It's his 4th consecutive victory, and Kerry Nolden wins the race at Brands Hatch. He calls it his home race. He's definitely going to be happy that he won it.
Yep, absolutely. He is clearly thrilled about that one. And Neil Lukin's going to be the first of the lap cars to finish the race behind him. No more racing for Neil. But as you mentioned, it's still plenty of battles going on, including this battle for 6th position between Martinson and Cunniff. And Cunniff taking a little bit of a different line from Martinson there, very likely because of the dirty air. Both of them very aware that this is the final lap of this race. Cunniff going to be doing his best to try and overtake him and get that 6th place position. He showed very good pace all season long. I really do hope that we're going to see Cunniff back for season 2. I believe he's even a podium finisher at an earlier point in the season, was Colin Cunniff. So. And here is that battle actually between the Carbon Racing boys that you were mentioning before. Gregor Reineck Jr. still ahead of Patrick White. Patrick White has closed that gap down after running off the circuit, and I wonder if we're going to see team orders coming into play, as not far behind them actually is that battle between Martinson and Cunniff. And actually, no, Gregor Reineck Jr. is going to take that position, or is it's tough to tell as they're coming down the straight. Martinson going to hold on to that 6th place position. Patrick White can only manage 5th place, so he is going to lose a number of points to Kerry Nolden in the championship. Still, though, 5th place not too bad when you consider that Patrick White did start in 6th place. But great job by his teammate Gregor Reineck Jr. Didn't even start in the top 10 and grabs that 5th place finish, which I'm sure he is going to be very, very happy with. In the end, Kerry Nolden 11.4 seconds ahead of Michael Mittner. Actually, that's a smaller gap than I was expecting. So good job, Michael Mittner, for really hanging in there. I'm not sure if Nolden let off, but it doesn't look like it, considering he set the fastest lap of the race with a 1:18.475. Gino Vandenbroek does get that 3rd place position, 28 seconds behind Michael Mittner, though. Quite a large gap, but an even bigger gap, actually. Almost 30 seconds, over 30 seconds to Gregor Reineck Jr. And Patrick White. And then, again, not far behind Martinson and Cunniff in 6th and 7th, and Lukens in 8th. And Robert Plumley not far behind. Peter Newman scoring nice points, actually, in 9th, 10th, and 11th there, which I'm sure they're going to be very happy considering ACR's poor performance, aside from Gino Vandenbroek, who, of course, got that podium. But Alexander Trowbridge being taken out in that lap 1 incident, and of course Teemu Valkejärvi also not taking place today because of other commitments. But Nigel Spears, Evan Imre, and Christoph Leister. Christoph Leister scores some points, actually. He got 6 points. Very happy to see, that would be very disappointing to see him do the entire race only to get lapped 5 times and then not score any points. So Christoph Leister, the final finisher to score points. And again, he gets that 6 points for his efforts. And of course, Gonzalo was one of those 5 guys in the opening incident that were taken out of the race. Certainly, though, still very exciting. I mean, it's nearly impossible to have a boring race at Brands Hatch. But great job for the AOR guys. Great job for Michael Mittner and also for Gino Vandenbroek, as they actually finished in the order that they started the race.
Yeah, very interesting. I mean, I guess it just shows what their pace was in qualifying, the qualifying matches for pace in the race. And of course, Peter Newman Media again, a very nice result. As we go on to the Drivers' Championship, Patrick White now 20 points behind Kerry Nolden. It's not looking good for Patrick White. Of course, he got the drop week, but Nolden needs to probably crash, and Patrick White needs to finish in a very high position. Jordan Howson and Phil Reed are not finishing the race, so of course they keep the same points. Rico Alatalo, of course, no longer racing. Michael Mittner closing up a bit. He got a nice bunch of points. He's now in 6th place. Martinson now in 7th. Both the drivers, by the looks of things, jumping Nuka Reinen, as Colin Cunniff is in 9th position with Christoph Leister in 10th. Of course, that finish, actually making it to the end, really helping him out. 6 points does mean a lot in this situation. Of course, it's just seeing how close the drivers are in the standings in this little area. Gregor Reineck Jr. in 11th place with 74. Robert Plumley, the leading Peter Newman Media driver, in 12th with 71. Valkejärvi with 70, just a point behind, and Vandenbroek moving up the order quite a bit into 14th with 58 points. Zal Talimakia 15th with 53, and of course this is where things start to spread out quite a bit. Kagra 43 points to 16th. Merck not racing this race Demeno, who got second place at the start of the race, and of course Lukens moving up just a bit himself with 36 points, and Lewis in 20th. He also not turning up this race. At this point on the championship, there's not many places you can move up, especially if you are not able to turn up, as Robinson is in 21st position with 35 points, and Peter Newman is stuck in 22nd with 29th, ahead of George Wiseman and of course Trowbridge in 24th with 21 points. He was hoping to score some points in this race, but of course the incident at the start didn't help. Baxter, Spears, Jensen, Imre, Van Rompuy, Evans, right around the top 30, of course. So Van Rompuy and Imre and Spears getting some useful points as they try and get up the standings.
Yep, not much races left. It's interesting that we go from one classic British circuit into another one. But yeah, it's looking pretty good for Kerry Nolden at the moment, as you mentioned, with that 20-point gap. I do believe that he would have to DNF the next race, and Patrick White would actually have to score a podium, if I'm not mistaken, in order to take the lead of the championship. I
think so. I mean, just trying to do some calculations off the top of my head. Patrick White's worst finishing position is 7th. So if he were to finish, let's say, first, I mean, it wouldn't get him that many points actually. So I don't know. I mean, it just depends. I mean, it looks like Nolden is on the brink of securing the championship. It just depends on what the conditions are going to be at Silverstone, as of course we're just getting the last two drivers, the debutees of the Drivers' Championship. Van Dorn and Camara, of course, are also caught up in that one incident, which is a damn shame for them. But yes, it's a very interesting situation for Drop Week, definitely throwing up some questions, and probably maybe some would say just delaying Nolden's inevitable championship win. But of course, if Patrick White can manage to achieve something special and Nolden bins it, anything can happen, of course, at Silverstone. As we're looking at the Team's Championship, and I guess we can confirm that Team AOR have secured the Drivers' Championship. I mean, that's even with a Drop Week, 135 points is quite a big gap.
Yep, and of course, Nuclear Racing not racing anymore. So really, it's 149 points to Carbon Racing. So yeah, it does look like Team AOR secure the championship, which is only fitting for the AOR Pro Mazda Championship inaugural season. Currently, Peter Newman Media, though, moves ahead of ACR despite Gino Vandenbroek's first podium of the season. And still very close between them, though, with only 4 points separating them. Heading into the final round, it's going to be very, very close between them. As we have a look at the Independence Championship, Jordan Housen still currently leading that ahead of Bill Reed Mittner, though, closing in that gap, of course, with that second place finish today. So looking pretty good for Michael Mittner in the closing stages of this season. But interesting thing about today's race, of course, with the big crash and all the issues and whatnot, slightly smaller grid as well. We had a number of people that actually finished in a personal best position, and not the least of which including Michael Mittner and Gino Vandenbroek, both scoring a podium for the first time so far this season. So Brands Hatch really, as you mentioned, throwing up an interesting result here in spite of that lap 1 incident. It's going to be very interesting as we head into the final round at Silverstone.
Yes, and to be fair to the drivers, I mean, it definitely looked like in qualifying that they had their fair amount of pace, but it was definitely an interesting situation with the drivers lower down the field being able to score more points than usual. You may have noticed a few seconds ago in the Independence Championship, Steve Kager now 6th in that championship, but there are rumours that this championship actually is going to get scrapped at the end of the season. I mean, it's planning kind of a push within the administration of this championship to try and create more teams. I mean, we've had a lot of people come in and out of the season. I mean, it's the first season, and drivers just getting into it, and of course, hopefully with next season we'll have more established drivers as drivers staying. Hopefully we won't have 42 drivers to go through every race.
Yeah, and here is the track map for Silverstone. We're going to be using the layout with the hard corner at Abbey rather than the fast corner. Personally, I prefer the fast corner, but both are fantastic. Again, moving from one British Classic circuit to another, I'm sure Silverstone is going to produce just as thrilling a race as Brands Hatch did. But that is going to do it for this video. Thank you, Crekkan, for joining me. Thanks to Fizzy. Thanks to Timu Balki-Yarvi as well for the graphics as always. And we will see you guys next time at Silverstone.
See ya.